So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. What I want to do today is really try and change the way you think about selling. It's not adversarial anymore. And what I want to do is address something that's really become quite prevalent over the last couple of years, and that's ghosting. It seems that people go and they talk to a prospective client and they put in a proposal or a pitch and then tumbleweed, nothing. And I think a lot of people are thinking that this is the norm for today. But actually, I don't believe it is. I think there are a number of things we can do to actually stop this happening. And what I'm going to do today is take you through how to select your ideal client, which I think is imperative. Too many of us try and sell to a very, very wide group of people. But if you've got a particular client in mind, somebody that you can really help, it will help you. Secondly, offering that client the right products and services, doing your research, knowing what it is that your clients actually want. And finally, giving them what they need or what they want at a price they can afford. So I'm going to start now just by talking about how we very often look at sales and selling. And I want you to change your mindset. Sales, in my view, has never been adversarial. I was trained in the late 80s. I know I don't look old enough, but I was trained in the late 80s on the consultative-led sale. And the consultative-led sale is all about listening. It's all about finding out what it is that your clients need or want, and then giving them a solution. It isn't rocket science. It's something that we can all do, something we all do in our daily lives, whether we're selling an idea or we're selling to a partner that we want to go and play golf or something. Andrew, you're in the room, so I'm sure you have to do that quite often. But actually, when we sell, we really do need to listen to what it is that people want and then getting that message across to them. So what qualifies me to talk to you today about sales and selling? Well, most of my career was spent in media. And the vast majority of that media career was spent in radio. And I launched Thanet Local Radio, which is now KMFM Thanet, which is just down the road at Imperial House in Margate. And that matters because not only did we have to sell business to business, but we had to sell business to consumer as well. Because when you're launching a radio station, you have to get listeners and you have to get advertisers. And so you have to be able to position yourself in such a way that everybody understands what it is that you're trying to do. And as I said earlier on, sales doesn't have to be adversarial. Sales should really be something that you do for someone rather than to someone. And that's a big difference. It's a big difference in the way that you think. None of us particularly like being sold to. None of us particularly like being manipulated. And so the process I'm going to take you through today will actually show you how you can build trust and rapport with people. And let's face it, people won't buy from someone they don't trust. That trust element is crucial in anything that you do. So what image comes to mind when you think about selling? Quite grubby, isn't it? It's being manipulated. It's being put under pressure to buy something you don't necessarily want to buy. We've all been in situations where we've bought something that we've been pressured into buying and we've felt regret afterwards. And I think many of us feel that to sell makes us look sleazy or grubby. But what if you changed your mindset? What if you became someone who was trying to solve someone's problem? You were putting a piece into a puzzle, or you were helping them get from where they are now to where they want to be. The two images I've used there are a jigsaw and somebody guiding someone on a map. And that's exactly what we should be doing when we're trying to get somebody to buy from us. I don't want you to think about it as selling. I want you to think about it as problem solving. Think about it as a game. Think about it as you putting the missing pieces into somebody's journey, helping them map out the right route from where they are now to where they want to be in the future. I'll be covering a bit later on story brand, which is something that I coach very regularly. And story brand is all about putting yourself, positioning yourself as the guy and your client as a hero in a movie. Think about Star Wars. Think about Luke Skywalker, who was the hero trying to achieve something. He was getting nowhere until Obi-Wan Kenobi comes into the picture and helps him. That's how I want you to think about your business. You are Obi-Wan Kenobi guiding Luke Skywalker. So shifting your mindset, the chimp paradox, which is something you see the bottom left of the slide, part of my logo. But the chimp paradox is something, it's a book that was written by a guy called Professor Steve Peters. And it's all about how your chimp brain can either hold you back or move you forward. And the chimp paradox is really important, both in terms of how you behave as a salesperson and how your client reacts to what you're saying to them. As I said earlier on, selling is something that not something you do to someone, something you do for someone. So just think about what it is that you do for your clients currently. What is it that they love about what you do? And some of you will know that already because you'll have had testimonials, you'll have had referrals from customers, existing customers. Some of you might have started up a new business. So start looking at what your competitors are doing, because that's a really good way for you to establish yourself. Unique selling points are really, really important in selling. Something that makes you different. It doesn't have to be unique, and it doesn't have to be a selling point. That's a bit odd that it's called a USP, but it is the thing that people love about you, the thing you do better than anyone else, the problem you can solve that no one else can, the problem you can solve in a way that really, really matters to your customers. So an example, I was talking to somebody earlier on who sells IT, but the example that I've given here is a CRM system. So instead of thinking, I need to close a deal, shift the way you think. How am I going to save this client time? How am I going to demonstrate to this client that what I'm offering them will save them time, make them more effective, save them money in the long run? It's just changing your mindset slightly, but it works. Because if you're going in to talk to somebody to help them rather than to sell to them, you're not under any pressure. They're not under any pressure. You're just having a conversation. And I'll show you how to do that as we move through the presentation. So, as I've already mentioned, The Chimp Paradox, a book by Professor Steve Peters. If you can get a hold of a copy, I would advise you do. Because if you read it, it will change you as a person, not just change you as a business owner or change you as a salesperson. It will change you as a person. Because it talks about when you think positively, positive things will happen. And it's odd, isn't it? When you have thought processes and you think, oh, it's never going to happen. And guess what? It doesn't. There's an old adage that I learned a long time ago, and that is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're going to be wrong. So that mindset is really important. I know, Andrew, I keep picking you out, but I know you like mindset as well. And it's really crucial running a business, especially in today's environment, where you need to have that resilience. You need to have that mindset because things happen, things get thrown at you. Mike Tyson said that everyone has a plan until you get a punch in the mouth. And he was absolutely right. So actually having that resilience and being able to see your way through how you're going to win and your clients are going to win, getting that win-win, I'll come on to that towards the end when we look at the negotiation, is crucial. Because if you're going for a win-win situation, you're not adversarial at all. You're doing the right thing. So the chimp brain, very emotive, very impulsive. You never really know what you're going to get. And we've all been in situations where that chimp brain, which is there to protect us and help us survive, cuts in and says, you're not good enough. You can't do this. You can't do that. Don't believe it. Make a plan to actually get your human brain in control. The human brain is the logical brain. Ironically, when we look at sales, people don't buy for logical reasons. They buy for emotional reasons. That chimp brain has an awful lot to do with the way people are going to buy from you. So your chimp brain can be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy. The paradox is that it can be the same thing at the same time. It's holding you back, and it's making you want to move forward. So that mindset shift, especially when you're selling, when you're marketing, when you're actually talking to people about the way you do business, it's imperative. And when you start thinking about the problems you can solve and the difference you can make to somebody's life, that makes you feel much more comfortable about going out there and talking to people about buying from you. Crucial element. It's probably the most important thing that I want to get across to you today. Think about how you can make your customers' lives better. Because if you do that, you're onto a winning plan, because you're out there and you're not trying to be coercive. You're not trying to make people buy something they don't need. You are genuinely trying to solve problems for them. So the chimp brain can hinder sales. It can get in the way. Think about some of the thought processes you have when you think about selling. We all like to be liked. As a coach, it's something that I have to be really careful about, because yes, it's nice to be liked, but I also have to hold people to account. I network on a regular basis. My key networking is BNI. And one of the things that is crucial about BNI is that you hold people to account. Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, said the best thing about BNI is that you make lots of friends. The worst thing about BNI is you make lots of friends because you have to hold them to account. But actually having that mindset is crucial. You know, yes, you want to be held to account as somebody who is going to deliver for your customer. You want to be able to deliver the results that you say you're going to deliver. And by the way, if I hear people say under promise and over deliver, no, don't do that. Promise what you can deliver and then deliver it. If you under promise with a view of over delivering, that means somebody who is promising what they can do is probably going to get the edge on you. So don't do it. But it can help you build sales as well. Building rapport is key. People buy from people they trust. People also buy from people like them. So actually using social proof and actually making sure that the social proof you're using, the testimonials, the case studies, really resonate with your potential clients is, again, something that makes a huge difference to your success in how many people actually buy from you. And I've already mentioned resilience. Resilience and persistence are crucial now in sales. The process I'm going to take you through this morning, you're not going to need that persistence. But I keep reading that it now takes 9 or 10 touch points for somebody to actually buy from you. I don't believe that's true. I think you can sell to somebody in 2 calls or less if you follow the process that I'm going to take you through this morning. Managing the chimp, that's really, again, something that you've got to get your head around. It's too easy to react to something that somebody says to you. React with something that's inappropriate, react with something that is going to damage your relationship. So just pause. Think about what they've said. Use one of the tools that I use and paraphrase back to them. If they've thrown an objection at you, just say to them, so let me get this clear. You said, and then rephrase the objection. It gives you time to think. Gives you time to get your chimp brain under control and think about what you're going to say. Reframing negative thoughts. What do I mean by reframing negative thoughts? Well, if an objection comes up, it's not a no, it's an opportunity. Because 9 times out of 10, you will know every objection that's going to be thrown. And if you know the objection, you know how to overcome it. So actually, it's another opportunity for you to reinforce why your customer should buy from you. Control your chimp, and you really will control your sales success, because you will be in control. And I don't mean control as in controlling. I mean, you will be able to guide your client from where they are now to where they want to be. So the psychology of buying, this was actually revolutionary to me when I learned it at the end of the 80s. I was at a sales conference in Dallas in America. And there was a guy stood up and he took us through the psychology of buying, not the psychology of selling, but the psychology of buying. And this is crucial to the way you think about interacting with your clients and getting your clients to buy from you. And it's a 4-stage process. Build trust and rapport. I've already said that building trust is crucial because people don't buy from someone they don't trust. Rapport building is as important because people love talking about themselves. So I'm going to take you through a process today of asking lots of open-ended questions so that people open up to you and they tell you what they're thinking. They tell you the problems they're facing. They'll tell you how those problems make them feel. Establishing a need, opportunity, or want. The need or want is what the client has. The opportunity is for you. So that's the second phase. Establishing and tying down what it is that people really need or what it is they want. People are more likely to buy something they want than something they need. So it's, again, really crucial that you tie down how the problem is making them feel. Because 95% of buying decisions are made for an emotional reason, not for a logical reason. And so if you find out how a problem is making a client feel, are they frustrated? Are they afraid? Are they optimistic? If they're optimistic, brilliant. I'd much prefer somebody to buy from me because they're going to get something better than they're fearing something worse. But again, I'll cover that a bit later on. Offering the solution. That can be done in a couple of ways. It can be done face-to-face in the same meeting where you've uncovered what it is that their problem is, or you can follow up with a proposal or a presentation. It can be face-to-face, it can be online, it can be by telephone. I know that people today don't buy as they used to when I started in selling, which was all face-to-face. I've now got clients who are in home improvements and doing Zoom calls with clients so they can get a good idea as to whether they are a qualified lead. And the final thing in the psychology of buying is asking them to buy. Believe me, if you've done the first 3 steps correctly, you probably won't even have to ask them to buy because they'll know what you're offering them is for them. Because they'll know you're going to make their life better. Little word of caution on this. This only works if you're selling to a qualified customer, somebody you know you can help. So you've got to know who your ideal client is. As I've said, if you go through the psychology of buying, you can actually sell to somebody in 2 calls or less. Call 1, if you're in B2B especially and you need to put a proposal in. That first call is the fact find or needs analysis, where you're really drilling down into what it is that the customer is facing. And it might be you're going in against a competitor. So one of the questions you need to ask is, why are you looking at moving at the moment? Why are you looking to move away from your current supplier? Because that will give you a really good idea as to what it is that you need to do. It's also talking to them about, again, how their lives are going to change if they get a solution that's totally satisfactory to them, something that's going to just make their life so much better. What I would also do towards the end of that first call is tie down that specific need or want. And in radio, I used to do it in such a way that I say, look, I'm going to go away. I'm going to put a lot of work into this. We've got a team back at the radio station. We're going to write scripts. We're going to put a proposal together. We're going to work on a schedule. If I come back to you and I can give you what you want within the budget we've talked about, do you think it's likely you're going to go ahead? Now, that's a bit cheeky, but you're being realistic. You're actually qualifying your qualification. Something that a lot of hardened sales professionals will say is always be closing. I don't believe in that. Closing is a horrible word anyway, and close indicates the end of the process. And the way that I work with people, the sale is not the end of the process because you want to build that relationship moving forward, especially if they're going to continually buy from you. And once you've tied down that pre-close, you then schedule the next call in a B2B scenario. In a B2C scenario, you're probably going to go straight on to call two, and you're just going to ask them whether they want to buy. Or if you're selling something that's relatively low value, again, that can be done in one call. But in a B2B scenario where you're selling big ticket items and you're expected to put a lot of work into it and you need to put a full proposal together, then you need a second call, and you schedule that call at the end of the first. You go away and write the proposal, which I'll take you through a bit later on. But the first thing you do in that second call is you recap on what it was that you tied down. And at the end of it, you say, has anything changed? Because if anything has changed, you leave your proposal in your briefcase or in your bag until you know that what's changed isn't going to fundamentally alter what you're suggesting. It's just a way, again, for you not to waste time. And actually, it makes the client recognize that you really want to give them a solution that's right for them, not right for you. And then you can present. You can present a proposal. You can take them through a presentation. You can do it however you like, in a way that's comfortable for you and is acceptable to them. Because don't forget, you're taking up their time as well. And I'm a great believer in respecting people's time. Anyone that's ever been on a call with me will know I'll probably get there half an hour early because I don't want to be late. I think it's disrespectful. And when I first got into sales, we were expected to do 5 face-to-face calls every day. And when you're driving from client to client, you really have to be very, very strict with yourself in terms of journey time and making sure you're leaving enough time in between, etc. But that's another issue. Once you've handled objections on that second call, you can get their commitment. And I'm not saying close, I'm saying get their commitment. Because again, that getting their commitment, in my view, is the first stage that you completed. Because once you've got their commitment and the after sales kicks in, that's when the work really starts, because you're really then building the relationship based on what you told them you can do. And once you've delivered what you can do, you can actually get them to buy more at a later date or refer you on to people. But again, I'll cover that later on in the presentation. So I talked a lot about knowing your ideal customer. And this is crucial. I talk to so many businesses who don't have a really clear idea who their ideal customer is. And I mentioned BNI earlier on, and one of the things that we do in BNI is we ask for a specific referral at every meeting. You don't know who your ideal client is. How can you ask for a specific referral? How can you get those people in the room to help you? So this is crucial. And it's about speaking to who you know you can help. And it's talking to your existing customers now, thinking about why they actually work with you, thinking about what they like about the way you do business with them, thinking about how they really enjoy the relationship that you've built and how you've made their life better, knowing who it is that you can help and who you can deliver the biggest value to. When people think about their ideal customer, they think about demographics, psychographics, firmographics, if you're selling business to business, competitive analysis, USPs, and then why people buy. And I just want to touch on those a little bit. Demographics are important. Yes, they are. But actually, one of the things that I've always thought is wrong is that pensioners, whether they're taking a state pension and a private pension or just a state pension, are classed at the lower end of the demographic. Whereas actually, pensioners who have retired on a private pension are in the top percentage of people controlling private income, because they've got a lot of disposable income. 9 times out of 10, they've paid off their mortgage. We're probably not going to experience that as we move forward, but people currently are in a good position, and they're very, very selective on who they buy from and why they buy. Again, I'll come on to that a bit later on. Psychographics is the more important one. Psychographics is the motivation, what it is that makes somebody buy. What is it in their chimp brain that makes them want to buy? So think about a problem that you're facing now. What's the biggest problem you're facing in your life at the moment or in your business at the moment? How's that making you feel? And if you think about that, that's the reason that you would buy from someone, because you don't want that feeling. You actually want to make things better. So psychographics is where that comes in. Firmographics is where you're looking at the types of business you're going to sell to. So what type of sector are they in geographically? Where are they based? What's their turnover? How many employees do they have? Is there a decision-making unit? You know, selling to big businesses is very different selling to consumers or to a small business. Very often there are 3 or 4 different people involved in the decision-making process. So you want all of those involved with every step of what you're doing, because they're going to have a vested interest in buying from you. And don't forget, you're building trust and rapport with a decision-making unit there rather than just one person. Competitive analysis, knowing what it is that your competitors can and can't do. This is something that's crucial for somebody starting up a new business. Look at the competition. Look at what's happening in the rest of the marketplace. Who do you aspire to become? Who do you think overpromises and underdelivers? Fundamentally different to what I said earlier on, because some people do. And this all leads into getting your pricing right as well, which you want to be able to do. But that competitive analysis will allow you then to come up with what makes you unique. What's your unique selling point? How are you different to your competitors? How can you make a customer look at you in a much more positive light than they will look at anybody else? What can you do for them that other people can't? So the why people buy, again, is logic, emotion, and the key one is there are only 2 reasons why people are going to buy from you. They either want something better or they fear something worse. Everything else falls under those 2 headings. And in my view, people are more likely to buy from you because they fear something than they actually want something better. Should be the other way around. That's how I like it to be. But unfortunately, in the environment that we're in at the moment, especially economically, there's a lot of fear out there. So it's knowing what people are worried about. How can you make their lives better? So we've already talked about the shift from convincing to helping. When you know who your ideal customer is, you know how you can help them because you've done your homework. Chimp paradox in sales, already mentioned that. Buyers' chimps are going to resist any kind of pressure. But on the other hand, the buyer's chimp is going to absolutely love the fact that you're helping them to survive. As I said earlier on, our chimp brain helps us to survive and thrive. So if you're helping them to survive and thrive, you really are on a bit of a winner. Knowing your ideal client will also make sure your human brain is in control, because you'll know what you can do. You've already done the thinking around it. And so it really helps to know who that ideal client is. And ideal customers will also engage with their human brain when they know that somebody is there to help them rather than to sell to them. It's a much more positive position for you to put yourself in. So the example I've given here is you're selling to high-end homeowners who are basically wanting to buy your flooring. You don't have to convince them they need luxury flooring. They've already told you they want luxury flooring. They might be of an age where you know that value is more important to them than price. How many times have you lost a piece of business on price? How many times could you have turned that around had you been able to justify the additional investment that your customer was going to have to make? If you position everything as an investment, it makes a big difference. Because costs and investments are fundamentally different. So instead, you can confidently target those who value long-term quality and aesthetics. Those people are probably going to be slightly older, because let's face it, when you're young and just into your new home or you've got a new family, money's tight. But actually, as you get older, things start to free up a little bit. So if you know who your ideal target market is and they're likely to buy on value rather than price, you will get what you're worth. And this creates a smoother, trust-based sales process. You're helping them. You're not trying to sell to them. You're not coercing them. You're not trying to take control. Every sales situation is better when it's a win-win, because there is equal power then and equal value. And when both sides feel good, more people will say yes. What I want you to do now is just take 2 minutes to think about who your ideal customer might be now, based on who your competition are. But more importantly, if you've had a business for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, think about the customers you've helped. Think about those customers that you've really delivered phenomenal value to. Just take 2 minutes to think about that. Just want you to get your mindset right as we continue the session. I'll put my seat in there. I can't see everyone scribing online, but I can see everyone making notes here, which is really good. People are still writing. That's always good. Also think about the people you love working with. Think about the people you really enjoy working with. I'll tell you a story in a minute. 60 seconds left, guys, just to conclude your thoughts. Thirty seconds. So I'm going to see the countdown clock in a minute. It's starting to. Okay, does anyone want to tell me who they think their ideal client is? You've all gone shy, haven't you?
I am.
Go on then.
So I work with a lot of founders and small business owners.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're starting a business, you have to be a Swiss Army knife and do the work of 5 different people. And I find that only a very small number of business owners actually come from a sales background, and they're put into 2 camps. Either they recognise that sales is not something that they are familiar with and that it's something that they want to learn, or they are completely confident in their abilities and think that they're able to give it to sales. Typically, I like working with the former ones.
Okay.
Okay. What we tend to see is that if you haven't done the job, you haven't done hundreds of deals, if you haven't managed a pipeline and presented a forecast and whatever, you're not familiar with those kind of principles. And therefore, how are you going to manage a person to do the sales for you?
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of business owners who don't want to take on the challenge of sales, and they throw it over the fence to a junior salesperson who's set up to fail.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, you've got a really clear idea then of who your ideal client is. When you do that, all of a sudden you realise that what you're trying to do isn't as hard as you thought it was, because you're going to your ideal client with a solution to their problem. And the story I was going to tell you is an accountant that I work with in central London. And he was a member of my BNI chapter in Mayfair. And he said he had 2 clients that he did exactly the same service for. One, he charged £5,000. The other, he charged 500. The guy who he charged £5,000 always thanked him, always sent him a gift at Christmas. The guy who he charged 500 was always trying to chip him on the price. Now think about that. What sort of customer would you like to be working with? Of course, you want to be working with the one that's going to treat you well. I'm not saying that the difference in price was necessarily the right thing, but it was what he'd negotiated with the client. But think about the types of people you want to work with and work with more of them. I think the New Zealand All Blacks have got it nailed, where in the changing room, when you go in for a game, it just says, no dickheads. And you don't want to be working with dickheads. You don't want to be working with people that are going to take advantage of your good nature. What I'm taking you through now is very much a partnership way of selling. You can't have a partner who's trying to shaft you every 10 minutes. So think about who your ideal client is. Think about who it is that you really want to work with. If you're business owners yourselves, you have a choice. You can decide who you work with. You don't have to work with people that you don't want to work with. So how do you generate qualified leads? Because let's face it, most people are generating leads today on social media. Social media is getting more and more cluttered. So you've really got to have a message that's going to cut through and stop people in their tracks. I did a workshop a couple of weeks ago in central London about how to get LinkedIn working better for B2B clients. And there was one particular stat that blew my mind. And that is that when we're on our mobiles and we're scrolling, the average person will scroll the height of the Eiffel Tower every day. Your job is to make them stop. If you're going to cut through that clutter, you've got to make them stop. That could be an image. It could be a statement. It could be a piece of video. You just have to make them stop to get their attention. The other thing you want to do when you're generating qualified leads is stop wasting your time with people that aren't going to spend money with you. Because every minute you spend with someone that isn't going to spend money with you, it's a minute you can't spend with someone that is. And so again, going back to that, knowing who your ideal client is, save you time, save you money, and make you more efficient and more effective. So what we're doing here is we're padding for gold, aren't we? We've got a lot of leads coming into our companies every day. And some of those leads are going to be gold, others are going to be dust. And it's our job to ensure that every single message we put out there is going to be positioned in such a way that we attract the qualified leads rather than the leads that we don't want. Because the leads we don't want are going to waste our time. And that might sound quite mercenary, but actually, in the words of cabin crew, when you get on a flight, if the oxygen masks come down, put yours on first before you try and help anybody else. And that's key. You've got to think about yourself first. You've got to think about your business, about why you're in business. You're in business to identify your ideal clients, give them a service or a product that they can afford, but you've got to make a profit as well. I come across too many businesses who don't make money because they're dealing with the wrong people. They're cutting their prices where they shouldn't do, and they're not working with the people that really value what they do. They're buying on price, not on value. And there's a great way to actually make people recognize how valuable your service is, and it's called a value stack. And I would advise you put it in everything that you do, whether it's a proposal, whether it's an information sheet. It just lists the things that makes you unique, the things that you do that you know most other businesses don't. When people have got a list of things that they can see differentiate you, they're much more likely to pay a slightly higher price to working with you. But it's knowing how you can make a difference to them that's the most important thing, because again, it's mindset. Marketing, you're thinking, wow, why have we got marketing in a sales presentation? Well, actually, people talk about sales and marketing, but sales is a marketing channel. It falls under marketing. And I wanted you to have a look at the definition there from the CIM, the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK. So it's a management process. It's not just about running ads, not just about running promotions, not just about having a good PR campaign, not about having a great social media campaign. It's a management process. So that becomes far more targeted when you know who your ideal client is. And that management process comes in when you're thinking about who you target, where you're targeting them, and what you want them to do. In radio, we had an absolutely brilliant commercial producer over at Essex Radio when I was over there. And he said, there are 3 questions that you need to ask when you're taking a brief for a piece of commercial production. Who are we talking to? What do we want them to do? And why should they do it? Just 3 questions. But it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference when you're thinking about your marketing. Identifying and anticipating. Identifying is fine, because when you actually go through the processes of running a business, you can identify what it is makes you different, identify what it is that customers want currently. Anticipating is slightly different. Henry Ford once said that if he'd have asked his customers what they wanted, they'd have just asked for faster horses. But he came up with the motor car because it was something that he recognized was an opportunity. If you spot an opportunity before your competition, you're going to be first to market. You're going to be the people that are known for coming up with that idea. Look at Apple. Look at what Apple did with the iPhone. It wasn't just a mobile phone anymore. It was a multiple entertainment device. Look at what happened to the music industry, because people are now streaming so much on their phones. All of this happened because Steve Jobs had an idea. He could actually see what the potential was. So that anticipating is important. Satisfying customer requirements. We've already gone through that a little bit, but actually a satisfied customer is a fantastic opportunity for you, because a satisfied customer will give you a testimonial, will refer you to other people, will actually make a brilliant case study. All of this social proof means that you're able to get people buying from you, because you've built that trust and rapport. They can see that you've done something for people very, very similar to them. And the profitably bit. Please don't forget, you're in business to make money. I see too many businesses who are not making money. They're just buying the worst job in the world because they're working for a maniac, i.e. themselves, who is unreasonable and unrealistic on what can be achieved. So when you actually look at this definition of marketing, you will really know how to start thinking about your customers, but also start thinking about the marketing process within your business. Because in my view, if you're a marketing business rather than a sales business, you're offering people something they want rather than something that you want them to buy. So you're much more likely to make money and be successful. That brings me on to the 4 Ps of marketing, which you might have heard of the 4 Ps in the past. Some of you will, some of you won't. The products that we offer, are they the right products or services? Are they the products and services that are going to help our customers solve a problem? Keep coming back to this problem solving, and there is a reason for it, because it's the way that I think. As a coach, I generate a lot of leads every month. I probably only work with 1 out of 10 of those leads because something's not quite right, either with their business or the way that I might work with them. But I will always refer those people on to other coaches that I know because they want coaching. Price. Price is probably the thing that people struggle with the most. I was with a client yesterday who's a manufacturing client, manufactures steel fabrications, doing a piece of work for a client that had come to them, and they supply bus fleets with disability slides that allow people to get wheelchairs on and off buses. And he put a price in that he thought was fair, and a week or 2 later was accidentally copied into an email that was sent internally from the client. And he then realized that the 2 suppliers they had, one was just unreliable and not delivering. The other one was charging twice the amount that he'd put in. So think about the price that you're going in at. There's a brilliant pricing model by a guy called Philip Kotler. And Philip Kotler had 9 different elements of pricing. One is premium, which is top left hand, and the bottom right hand is rip-off pricing. You don't want to be doing the rip-off, but if you have the opportunity to deliver a premium product or a premium service, why not ask for a premium level of investment rather than price? Place. What do I mean by place? I mean, where is it your customers want to buy from you? Is it online? Is it a bricks and mortar store? Is it face-to-face in their own office? Is it online via a Zoom call? Things have changed since the pandemic. Things have changed. People are more happy to actually do meetings online. I believe that there is nothing that can replace a face-to-face call because people buy people. And if you can actually shake hands with someone and look at the whites of their eyes, I believe you will be much more successful in sales than you will if you do a Zoom call or a telephone call, because all of your senses are then alert. And how often have you met someone and something's not quite sat right with you? I met somebody like that a couple of weeks ago and I decided not to work with them. So you have the choice. Keep going back to that. You have the choice. If you're the business owner, you have the choice. If you're an employee, see if you can talk to the business owner and find out, whether you can actually adjust the way you work, if it's going to help them. And promotion. Promotion is such a wide spectrum these days. There are so many different channels that you can advertise on. The key here is to get the message right, in my view. You need to be very, very clear on how you can help your client. How are you going to make their life better? How are you going to stop their life getting worse? And be very, very clear. My view is that if you can get your message right, provided you are on the right channels where your customers, your ideal customers, hang out, you will actually get cut through and you will get people inquiring. And that's what you want to do. You want to be generating qualified leads. Best way to generate qualified leads is through a sales funnel. And a sales funnel is a really inexpensive way for you to generate qualified leads that you can build trust and rapport with and get them to understand why you're the person they should be working for or working with. And as you can see, it's a valuable piece of content. That can be a PDF, which is my preference, although I'm starting to look at a series of videos to actually put up as a piece of content that people can actually engage with and help them to make a decision. So for instance, if you're selling kitchens and you're selling kitchens to an older market, you might say 5 things that somebody wanting a more accessible kitchen needs to think about. And you give them those things that they need to think about and you tell them why it's important to them. Helps them make the decision. You're not selling to them, you're actually building some rapport. What you then do is you create a landing page. And that landing page can be an additional page, a hidden page on your website, or it can be a unique URL. And I've just bought a couple of unique URLs that I'm going to be launching later on in the year, just to help people think about how they can make better decisions in their businesses. I'm one of these people that love sharing information, so I'm starting to share an awful lot more information and workbooks and plans and worksheets on social media, because I think that people need that at the moment. That's something that I'm intending to do. Ask them for their contact details when they come to the landing page, because that allows you the opportunity to nurture that relationship with them, to actually build that trust and rapport through a nurture email campaign. And then you close the story loop, and I'll come on to stories a little bit later on, by asking them if they're going to buy or offering them an opportunity to have a call with you. So I've got 3 different downloads that I have on my website, all hidden web pages. If you go to my website, ebusinesscoaching.co.uk, and go to the bottom, you will see those pages all listed. But there are 3 individual downloads there that will help people in the 6 key areas of their business. And so you've got sales and marketing up there, which is the one that you probably want to go to as you come to this. There's also a financial one on there, and there's a people and management one on there as well. And what I do, people come through to my website, to the landing pages that you can see there. And as you can see on the right-hand side there, you've got a form that they'll fill in. You've got a little bit of a graphic on the left-hand side, which shows them the content they're going to get within the download. But more importantly, below that, there are some testimonials from people that have worked with me and know how I work. And that's key. It's that social proof again. As I already mentioned, nurture campaign is a key part of a sales funnel. It's actually building that trust and rapport after they've come to your landing page. They've downloaded a fabulous piece of content that hopefully is going to make them want to talk to you more because you're helping them to make a decision. You're not trying to sell to them within that. And the nurture campaign is vital because it's your way of starting to build some trust and rapport. And it really depends, I guess, on the time that you want people to make a decision within. With me, I prefer to send the emails out every 4 working days. Some of my American colleagues send out 2 a day. I think that's overkill somehow. So I tend to do it so that these emails go out every 4 days. The first email, though, goes out straight away when the person has downloaded your piece of content or they've got access to your videos. And what you'll do in that thank you email is basically, as it says on the tin, you're thanking them for downloading the content. But what I also do is I pull out 3 key takeaways that I want them to think about and, if necessary, make them read the PDF or view the videos because we want them to take in that content. So it's just a way to prompt them a little bit. The second email is a problem solution email. What that does, it talks about the problem that they're facing, how it's making them feel, how unfair it is, and then the solution that you're giving them to actually overcome that problem. This is really crucial because you're just telling them the main problem you think they have. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be right because you've done that work around your ideal client. So that's 4 days after the thank you email. 4 days after that one, a testimonial. I said earlier on, didn't I, that people buy people, but actually people buy people like them. So if you've got a testimonial that you're sending them, somebody just like them that you've helped and you've overcome a similar problem, they're much more likely to believe that you can do what you do. I mentioned the guide earlier on, didn't I, from StoryBrand, where you're guiding your client from where they are now to where they want to be. Guides need 2 things. They need empathy. So in other words, you understand the position that your client's in, but you also need to have authority as well. So my empathy comes from the fact that I've started up several businesses, most of them were radio stations, but I also set up my business as well. So I've got that empathy. I understand what people are going through. And the authority is the experience that I have of the thousands of businesses I've dealt with during my life, but also the fact that I've got an MBA. So some of those models that I can use really make people think, well, this is someone that can actually teach me something. And where I'm at the top end of the coaching spectrum, in other words, I'm not a pure coach. I'm not somebody that just asks questions. I'm somebody that is much more training led. People like that. The clients I'm going for really like that. The 4th email is to overcome an objection. Now, if we know what the objections are likely to be, and we know the core objection that we're going to get, we can overcome that in that email sequence. Overcoming objections early on is crucial in terms of getting people to believe that you can help them. Because again, it's demonstrating your empathy. You know what the objections are. You've dealt with lots of customers. It's something I use called feel, felt, found. And it's a way of overcoming an objection. And you basically say, yeah, I totally understand how you feel. Many of my clients have felt exactly what you've just told me, but they've since found. And then you go on to overcome that objection. So feel, felt, found shows the empathy, but it also overcomes the objection as well. Price is usually the main objection. So again, positioning the cost of working with you as an investment is core because people will look at an investment as something they're going to get something back from, whereas a cost isn't necessarily. Paradigm shift, a shift of ideas. How do you want people to think about you when they've read this final email in comparison to how they felt about you before? What's that paradigm shift? Think about that. What do you think people think about your profession or your industry now, and how do you want them to think differently? If you can nail that one, you really are starting to make some great progress. I much prefer a sales call to a sales email, but not everyone is as outgoing as I am, I guess. And I'm outgoing because I've had a lot of experience of dealing with people over the years. The more you talk to people, the better it is. I think that one of the big challenges at the moment is if you are, so I'm the tail end of the baby boomers, you've got Gen Xers who cannot communicate with millennials because they're totally different communication styles. So it's working that out as well. So it might be that if you're targeting millennials or you're targeting people that are, you know, younger than the Gen Xers, it might be that an email is better, or even WhatsApp. I know a lot of businesses are using WhatsApp at the moment to build relationships with their clients. But the sales email or call, however you structure it or however you do it, is going to be structured in a certain way. You're going to start with the problem, not just the external problem, which is the problem they're facing, but the internal problem as well, how it's making them feel. You're then identifying that emotion. You're actually reminding them how it's making them feel. How are you going to make their life better? You might then have a brief testimonial or a success story. It can only be just a couple of lines. You don't have to do War and Peace. It can just be a couple of lines. It's amazing how you can tell a story. When Twitter was, you know, what was it, 140 syllables? You could actually tell a story on Twitter through one tweet if you structured it properly. Explain your offer. Explaining your offer is crucial. It's how your product or service matches their problem or overcomes their problem. And then you have a direct call to action. I'm a big fan of 3 things that somebody needs to do to work with you. So give us a call. We'll come and do a site visit, and then you can enjoy whatever it is that you're offering. And then illustrate what success can look like. You can paint a vision of what somebody's life is going to look like when they've worked with you. They're much more likely to do it because you're showing them what's possible. The stakes, if you like, of working with you. What are the stakes? Positive and negative. What's going to happen if you do nothing? But what will happen if you do something? It's amazing when you get people to think in that way, how much more successful you're going to be, and you're going to get more people buying from you. And then repeat your call to action. Don't be afraid to do that. What I also do is put a PS in as well, because if you put the PS in, 9 times out of 10, when people get an email through, the first thing they read is the PS. It's a stat that I learned probably 4 or 5 years ago, but it really is true. If you put a PS on there, you're much more likely to stand out with that PS than you are even with the subject header. So thinking about headlines, your biggest challenge is to get the attention of your prospect. I already mentioned earlier on how cluttered social media is, how difficult it is to cut through digital media. So actually getting their attention is crucial. And a formula that has been used in sales for years is the AIDA formula: attention, interest, desire, action. Excuse me, way too much talking. So the attention element is where you want people to take notice, sit up and take notice. That can be a headline that addresses the problem that they're facing. The interest comes about when you talk about how you can overcome their problem, make their lives better. The desire is when you start to make people think about how you've worked with other customers, and the action is what they need to do next. So if you structure it in that way, it's a really good way of doing it. I see so many ads, both online and in the press, where people think the headline is the name of their business. No, it isn't. You don't care about the name of your business. What they care about is the problem they're facing. So make the headline directly relate to the problem that your customers are facing and how it's making them feel, if possible. As I've said at the bottom there, your headline should really guide your customer to the point where they're thinking that you are the guy or girl that can solve their problem. Social proof, I've mentioned it a few times now. People buy people like them, as I said earlier on. So if you've got a lot of social proof, use it. People love social proof. Think about all of the review sites you've got these days. Think about the importance you put on your Google reviews and everything else. That's there for a reason, because people are now recognizing that if they look at your reviews, they will know how good you are. Case studies are absolutely brilliant because it allows you to demonstrate the process. As I said earlier on, that 3-step process, if you can highlight that in a case study, people can see how easy it is to work with you, how easy it is for their problems to be solved. Testimonials. Word of advice with testimonials. I would say, talk to the people that you want the testimonial from on the telephone. Make some notes. Write it as you would want it written, so that you take any fluffery, any puffery out, and then just send it to them by email and say, just want to recap this and use it as a testimonial. Is that okay? Because what you can do by doing that is make it really to the point, so that you're actually making sure that it's addressing the problem that you want addressed. That isn't manipulation in any kind. It's just you helping them to clarify what they think of you. Hopefully that makes sense. And reviews, as I've said already, I did a TripAdvisor review for Specsavers weekend. Just something that I do because I think that if somebody gives you a good service, then you need to recognize that. Google reviews, very, very important. Trustpilot, obviously you've got all of the different trade review systems as well that you can use, but very, very important to make sure you get satisfied customers to give you testimonials, give you reviews, because it's all social proof that will help you to win clients over to your way of thinking, because they'll know that you can do what you say you can do. Channels. This is one of my bugbears. You know, if you create great content and you put it in front of the wrong people, that great content's wasted. Make sure you know where your target market hangs out. There's an old adage, isn't there, that content is king. Well, if content is king, then the channel's a queen and she wears the trousers. Because you cannot get a message across in the right way or to the right people if you're using the wrong channels. Facebook doesn't work particularly well for me. LinkedIn does. Knowing that's really important. Doesn't stop me using Facebook, doesn't stop me helping people on Facebook, but it's not a primary channel for me to use when I'm trying to get new leads. So it's knowing where your prospects hang out. And again, ask your existing customers, where did you find me from? Ask them those questions. They want to be involved. They want to talk about themselves. If you can remember that, you'll go away from this session this morning with something really valuable. When and where are they going to be most receptive to your message? Having worked in radio for so long, it was key for us to demonstrate when different audiences were listening at different times. If you have the budget to use radio, whether it's local radio, whether it's community radio, even if it's one of the big global stations, use it. Because you can reach people at a time when it's most beneficial for you. If you're a retailer, get them while they're in the car driving to the shops. If you're a business to business, make sure that you're advertising at the weekends as well as during the weekdays. Because the misconception is, well, I'm a business to business advertiser. I only want drive time, I only want morning. There was a guy that I looked after at Invicta Radio towards the end of the 80s. It was when mobile phones were first coming in. They were like breeze blocks. Some of you will remember, some of you won't. Andrew, I can see you can. And basically, he was selling to businesses and he only wanted afternoon drive and morning peak. This campaign wasn't working. And I said to him, Gordon, you've got to give me notice. I said, but while that notice is running, I'm going to give you some bonus commercials outside of the times that you've chosen. Oh, okay then, but it's not going to work. 2 minutes to midnight on a Saturday, he got a call from the marketing director of GEC Marconi in Rochester, who then placed an order the following week for 20 mobile phones for his sales team. The sales director had a mobile phone. It was in his car. He heard the ad on the radio, made the call straight away, and the client was able to benefit from that. You can think outside of the box a little bit and think about when your customers are going to be most receptive. The guy had just been out for a really nice night at the Fiesta with his wife. He was driving home, very open to a message that related to his business. So always think a little bit laterally if you can. So asking the right qualifying questions, vital in sales, because you really need to know whether you're on the right track. That always be closing that I mentioned earlier on. Again, always be qualifying. Always make sure you're on the right track. Am I on the right track? Am I going to go to the client with the right solution to actually meet their needs? So why qualify prospects? As I said earlier on, you can't help everyone, and you shouldn't expect to be able to help everyone. You really need to market to your ideal client. If it's a niche, a very, very narrow niche, you're still going to get inquiries through from other businesses. Don't worry about missing out, because you really won't. As I said earlier on, the time you spend with those you know you can help is time that you're not wasting with people that you can't. So really knowing that qualification is important. BANT. Anyone ever come across that before? Really quite straightforward, really. It's a acronym. And when you're actually qualifying someone, when they've come through, you haven't even decided yet whether you're going to go and see them. You're trying to ascertain whether they have the right budget. Because if they're thinking really cheap and you don't do cheap, you don't want to go and talk to them. Do they have the authority? Is there anyone else involved with the decision-making process? What about their need? What do they think they need? And be careful with that, because not everyone knows what they need until you ask them the right questions. And timing. When are you thinking about doing this? They're thinking about doing it next year. Not as urgent as it would have been if thinking about doing it next month. So common qualification questions I've got here. When are you thinking about doing it? Obviously that comes under timing. Is there a deadline you're working to? Very often people will come to you because they've been let down by another supplier. By asking that question, you know their state of mind in terms of wanting to buy from you. What's made you consider it now? Again, this is all timing. Do you have a budget in mind? 9 times out of 10, people don't have a budget in mind. So they're quite open. So when you go to them and you quote them on whatever it is that you charge, make sure that you can demonstrate the value that you're providing. Will there be anyone else involved in the buying decision? Again, this is the authority bit of BANT. What's more important to you, value or price? I think the majority of people would say value. Whereas if you don't ask that question and you haven't qualified at the beginning, they're going to try and knock you down on price. And then the question is, sorry, do you want this done properly or do you want it done cheap? It's a lovely question to ask people, by the way. And if ever you're asked, is your price negotiable? Just say, yeah, how much more do you want to pay? I did that with a client a couple of weeks ago and won the client. So being a bit cheeky, even at my age, I can do it. So needs analysis and fact finding. You qualified them, you know they're a potential client for you. This is the point where you really start to build the trust and rapport. And this is the point where you are building your armory, if you like, for the proposal. You're actually gathering all of that information so that you can put the right proposal in and get people to take you seriously. So always be qualifying, as I've said. Knowledge is definitely power. The more knowledge you have, the better equipped you will be to put the right proposal in place. Asking the right questions is crucial. Got to be open-ended. Have to be open-ended. Don't ask closed questions. Closed questions are those questions that can be answered yes or no. Ask open-ended questions: who, what, why, how, because it makes people open up. And when people open up, you can get other buying signals from them. You know, things that you might not even have thought about, that they're telling you that you know it's a problem you can solve. Filling knowledge gaps, vital here. You know, we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. So actually, sometimes you can fill a knowledge gap. You can tell people something that makes them think, I hadn't even thought of that. That's really, really crucial to do that. This is a Confucius quote. I thought I'd put it in there because it's quite a tongue twister. I'll let you read it. To know that we know what we know, and that we do not know what we do not know, is true knowledge. Think about that in relation to your client. You know you're going to have clients that you're going to be talking to who know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. So until you bring it to their attention, they're in the dark. Just giving some effective prospecting questions here, which I think will be quite useful to you in terms of understanding their needs and challenges. One of my favorites on there is, what would you change about your current provider if you could? If you're pitching against another business, really crucial that you nail that. They're talking to you for a reason. They're unhappy with something. So it's a really good way for you to understand what it is that you need to do to make their lives better that their current supplier isn't doing. Exploring their buying processes. What factors would make you confident in moving forward to the solution? This is just laying the groundwork for yourself when you're actually putting that proposal together. What factors would make you confident to make a decision? You need to know what your client needs to know to help them make a decision. By asking them that question, you're making them think as well. And they're also thinking, wow, this person's really interested in my needs, not just about theirs. Pain points, as I said earlier on, these are the reasons that people are talking to you now. Where's the pain? How's the problem making them feel? What's happening in their lives that you can make better? What's happening in their lives that they want to make better? That's an even better one. Building a vision of future opportunities. Again, this is going back to making people think about what the end game is. When they've worked with you, they've had a really successful interaction with you, they've bought from you, they're really happy. What's going to make them really happy? What would make this investment a no-brainer for you? Just ask them that question and let it hang. Silence very often is something that a client, a buyer will want to fill. And so they will think about it and they will tell you. But it makes your job so much easier because, again, you're hearing what it is that's going to motivate them to buy from you. So already said about establishing the need, opportunity or want, tying it down, getting the benefits across, results as well. Results are what come from the testimonials and the social proof that you're able to deliver. Crucial that you're able to show results other people have experienced, because people buy people like them. And I know that I'm repeating some of the things that I'm going through at the moment, but it's for a reason. People need to hear things 2 or 3 times before it sinks in. So I hope this is sinking in. The proposal stage, this is primarily if you're B2B, but actually I would advocate doing it if you're in home improvements, if you're a window company, if you're a kitchen company, put a proposal in. It just sets you aside from your competition. And that's what you want to do. You want people to look at you as a superior service. And by putting a good proposal together, you can do that. Again, psychology of buying, building trust and rapport, establishing that need, offering a solution, asking them to buy. This is what you're doing through the proposal. You're asking them to buy. When you navigate the first 3 stages, that final point becomes so much easier because you've already got them understanding why they should be working with you. You've built that trust and rapport so they trust you enough to buy from you. You've already established what they need or what they want, and you're just offering them a solution. Probably won't have to do the final one, as I said. For structuring the proposal, I see so many proposals that come to me where the first page, they're talking about themselves. Big no-no. Don't do that. Thinking about story brand again, the hero in the game. People want to be the hero of their own story. They want you to be the hero. They want to be the hero. So the first thing you talk about is them, their problem, how it's making them feel. Your solution. What is your solution? Why does it stack up much better than your competition? Put that value stack in that section. The stakes, as I mentioned earlier on, this is all very story brand. The stakes. When you think about a movie, what were the stakes in Star Wars? Luke was going to save the whole universe. And if Darth Vader got his way, it was going to be pretty nasty. Then put the investment in, and do entitle it investment. Don't put pricing in. My view, always with the investment, is give them a couple of options. I always give them 3. 9 times out of 10, my clients will go for the middle investment level. Not because I've done it deliberately, but because I know that mentally, that's where most people sit. Social proof. Make sure you finish it off with testimonials. And if you do something that's image-based, then put images in there. You know, one of the ones that I saw from a landscaper that I helped in London, other gardens our customers have loved. And it was brilliant just looking at these pictures. And of course, it made the person understand what this landscape gardener could do for them. Next steps, that 3-step process. What do you do next? Call us. We'll give you an installation time. Finally, you'll enjoy your wonderful new kitchen, whatever it is. But those 3 steps are crucial. 3 steps, that's all it is. Can do 4, I don't particularly like it. I think the human brain is much better with 3 steps. So if you can do that, brilliant, within your proposal. Following up on your proposal. Now, this will vary depending on whether you're going in to talk to them or whether you've sent it to them via email or whether you're going to do a Zoom call or whatever. So if you're emailing it, call within 24 hours. Not for an answer, but just to say, I just wanted to make sure you've got the proposal. I know what the internet can be like. Might have gone to your spam, might be stuck in the ether somewhere. Just wanted to make sure you'd got it. Oh, you have, that's brilliant. I will give you a call back in 7 days, or I'll give you a call back in 3 days, depending on how you want to work. But ensure you don't leave it too long. I would say the maximum you want to leave it is 7 days. Any longer than that, and the momentum has gone. They've forgotten about some of the things that you put into the proposal. I'm a great believer in 3 days after the proposal, just putting that call in. Have you had a chance to have a look at it? What are your thoughts? If you're presenting it, as I said earlier on, recap on the problem that you summarized on at the end of that first call. Has anything changed? Because if anything's changed, again, you go back to basics and you start again. Can be a bit of a pain, but you'll save yourself time in the long run and give yourself a much better opportunity for getting the client to buy from you. Objections. People are terrified of objections. They see it as something personal. Oh God, they don't like me. This is the chimp brain, all right? They don't like me. They don't want to do it. They don't have the budget. What have I done wrong? A lot of the time, you're not going to get objections because what you've done throughout the process that I've gone through with you this morning is you've built the trust and rapport, you've established the need, opportunity, or want, and you've given them a solution. You've pre-closed at the end of your first call. So generally, you're not going to get objections, but occasionally you will. And occasionally they're just smoke screens. They're not real objections. So how do you overcome them? So they come in many forms, as I've said here, but there are 4 main areas. You've got price, it's too expensive. If you've done your job right, when you've done your fact find needs analysis, you'll have already established that it's not price, it's an investment, and you're going to get something back for that investment. Timing, I'm not ready right now. Remember banks, when we talked about timing, you've already qualified. So again, that shouldn't come into the mix. But if it does, you can say, well, okay, why are you delaying? What makes you think that this has got to wait? You know, don't be afraid to ask questions. And do it in a way that you can empathize with them as well. Trust. I need to think about this. I need to talk to my team. My response to that kind of objection is usually, so sorry, what have I not explained correctly? Because I take great pride in listening to what people need, what they want, and then giving them a solution to that. So it's my fault if they can't make a decision to go ahead with it. And that shows empathy. And the fact is, we all know how clients can feel because we've all dealt with clients before. And again, unless you're starting a new business, in which case, just think about how you feel. when somebody is asking you to make a decision on a big purchase or even on a medium-sized purchase. And the need, I don't see how it helps them. Well, if you go through this process, you can see that that won't be a real objection because they will know how it can help them. They'll know how it can help them to actually have a better life and how it will make them feel better about themselves, how it will answer the problem that they're facing. Reframing objections. This is something that I was taught really early on in my sales career. And there are 4 elements that I've got here. The acknowledgement, vital here. Again, it demonstrates empathy. We're actually saying, it's a great point, I hear you. And then you can actually diffuse that resistance in any way that you see fit. That if the objection is price, for instance, you can say, well, I can see how you feel about that. But if you remember when we talked originally, we'd said that the investment will actually give you X, Y, and Z. It will also give you this, and this is how it will make your life better. Asking open-ended questions. Can I ask what specifically makes you feel that way? Drill in. Don't be afraid to drill into things. Because very often, as I say, it's a smokescreen. And if it's a smokescreen, they probably won't be able to actually answer you. But the real objection will then come out. And reframe their concern. Many of our best clients felt the same, feel, felt, found, as I said earlier on. Reframing it so they don't feel like they're on their own, or, customers don't want to feel stupid. And if you can build that trust and rapport with them in the right way, they won't feel stupid because they'll know they can trust you. They know you understand, and they won't be afraid to ask difficult questions. The way you respond to it with your human brain, not your chimp brain, vital. Remember what I said earlier on about slowing down and just making sure you take on board what they've said. Take a break. Or repeat the objection to them and then talk to them about how you overcome it. Hopefully that's clear. So, tackling the most common objections, I think this might be useful. Too expensive. I completely understand. Many of our clients felt that way. And again, feel, felt, found. You can go through it that way. I need to think about it. Understand. Making the right decision can take time. And again, just reframe it so that you totally understand. You are totally empathetic, but you're still getting that authority across. I'm not ready right now. Timing is key. Can I ask, what would need to happen? What would need to happen? You've already gone through the process. You know that they're ready because you've already qualified them. So just ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions and probe. Very often they'll actually come up with an objection and not realize it's something you've already overcome. Again, it's not knowing what you don't know. I don't need this. That makes sense. But we talked about why you needed it. We talked about why it's going to make your life better, etc., etc. If anyone wants these slides, by the way, I'm more than happy to share it. So just let me know. The gentle art of negotiation. Who likes negotiating? Show of hands in the room. Oh, 3 people. That's right. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands online. I'm sure there are a lot of people online that absolutely hate it. But actually, negotiation is just a part of selling. And it really is all about preparation, positioning, and persuasion. The preparation is all about knowing what you want, but also knowing how you can deliver value to your customer. The preparation's already happened. You've gone through the fact find, you've gone through the needs analysis. You're where you are because you have an awful lot of knowledge. Remember I said earlier on, knowledge is power. Positioning, making them see the value, making sure they know how you're going to make their life better. 3 levels of a problem: the external problem, the problem they're facing; the internal problem, how it's making them feel; and the third one, which I haven't gone into, is the philosophical problem. Wow, you don't deserve to be in this situation. When you say it like that, people know that you understand. And provided you do understand and you're not just saying it for the sake of it, it's very, very powerful to make sure that people understand you understand. And then persuasion. Use strategy, psychology, and communication to find common ground. I've negotiated with some of the biggest ad agencies in London, and those guys really know how to negotiate. But when you're negotiating and they're asking you for something, make sure that you don't just give it to them. Make sure you're getting something back as well, because the deal has to be right for you. Handling pushback. I put four examples there. The flinch. They act shocked by your price. It's a lovely one. It really is. And again, if you've done the groundwork correctly, kind of expecting the price anyway. I'm a great believer of flagging up price investment from very early on, because I think it's important. You're not hiding anything from them then. The higher authority. I need to speak with my boss. Sorry, I thought when we talked originally, it was you making the decision. Very often it's a smokescreen. It's just something they're using in negotiation. Can you do better? Can do better, but it's going to cost you more. Can you do better on the price? Really, giving you the best price, and actually the price that you're paying is a really good investment. And the walk away bluff, which is something that I've used with a client quite recently. And they came back to me because the area of expertise that I'm going to help them in, they can't get anywhere else, because there isn't anyone out there doing what I do in this particular area. So it's a really nice position to be in. But very often when a client threatens to walk away, it's just a bluff. Asking for the order. As I said earlier on, fear of rejection is where that chimp brain comes in. How many people go through the whole process that I've talked about almost naturally, but are afraid to ask the order? One of my favorite closes that I use, one of my favorite ways to ask somebody for commitment, is just to say to them, would you like to start this month or next month? The alternative close. Not put it up there. I put the assumptive close where you assume they're going to go ahead, because again, what I've just taught you, the assumption is correct because you've gone through the process. You know what they need or want. You know you can satisfy that need or want, and you think you've got the trust and rapport to have actually got them to make that commitment. And the test close. The test close is something that isn't used very often these days. But you could say to them, is there anything else that I would need to do to get you to commit now? Generally, it's a no, because you've addressed everything in the proposal. And overcoming last minute hesitations where people say they're not sure. Okay, so if you're not sure, what would stop you? Do you want to make your life better? Just ask them those questions. Be honest with them, but do it in a way that is empathetic. Because we've all been there. We've all been asked to make decisions that sometimes we've been uncomfortable to make. But giving them that confidence is crucial in terms of, asking for the order, getting commitment from them. I've put 4 closes on there. Feel, felt, found, which I've gone through already, so I won't go through that again. Just imagine it. You overcame that problem. You were making more money in your business. You were able to do what you want to do with your family. This is some of the things that I use when I'm talking to people. People who set up businesses want a better life. They don't want something that's going to suck the life out of them. So actually, I know that that's the 2 things that I need to address when I'm talking to people. But what happens next close? So if we can get agreement today, what I'll do, I'll get the wheels in motion. You'll get your welcome pack. We'll get the first session scheduled, and we'll move on from there. And it just makes people think, permission to buy. And it really is sometimes, that's what people need. They just need permission to buy. Make it easy. There was a story I heard recently about a guy who was at an airport, and he went into this high-end jewelers at an airport, and he was looking at the watches, and these watches were absolutely gorgeous. And he just thought, can I afford it? Not really sure what I can. And the sales assistant was absolutely brilliant. He said, tell me what you do. The guy said, well, I run my own business, and this is what I've done in the last year. And he said, do you know what? You deserve this watch. And the guy thought, I do deserve this watch. Who bought it? And it was a big commitment. You know, this was a £50,000 watch. But the way the guy treated him was absolutely brilliant in terms of just giving him the confidence to give himself permission to make that purchase. I said earlier on, didn't I, that the close is a horrible term because it signifies the end of the process, but it isn't the end of the process by any means. After the sale, how many people have experienced making a sale and then the client coming back to you the day after or the week after and saying, do you know what, I've been thinking about this and I'm not sure. Buyer's remorse is more common than you might think. So there are some tips here that I've got for you. 3 steps to reduce buyer's remorse. The easiest one is just to reinforce that decision immediately. Send them an email. Just tell them what a great decision they've made and how much you're looking forward to working with them. Makes them feel really good. Reinforces the fact they've made the right decision and you're an okay person. You've not fleeced them because you've not gone away and hidden. You've been in contact with them again straight away. And that makes them feel better. Strengthening the relationship. So check in personally, give them a call, a week in, 2 weeks in, however long you want to give it. Again, I would do that relatively quickly. And remind them of why they bought in the first place. Remind them of how it's going to make their life significantly better. Once you've done all of that, you then want to start getting referrals and social proof on the back of it. So actually knowing that you've got a satisfied customer is a really good place for you to start in terms of asking for a testimonial, asking for a review, asking if you can use them as a case study. I think timing is really important here. How often have you bought something and the day after you've got an email that says, oh, we'd like a review? I haven't even tried the service yet. How can I give you a review when we haven't even started? So asking for those referrals and testimonials. 3 simple strategies. Make it easy for them to say yes. So ask at the right moment, be specific, tell them exactly what you want and what you're going to do with it. Give them a simple way for them to help you. Look, I've made your life better. Just help me, please. Just do something for me. Turn testimonials into stories. So ask guided questions of your clients. Offer to write it for them. As I said earlier on, you can do that with testimonials as well. Just do a quick telephone conversation with them and recap it in an email in the way that you want it recapped. And then make referrals and testimonials a habit. Make sure that every single satisfied customer you have, you go back and talk to them about giving you a referral or a testimonial. They will always know someone that you can help. Always. Almost guarantee it. Thank you very much. Are there any questions online or in the room? Any questions online?
Yeah, Anonymous, could you please give examples of the sales process for service-based businesses, how to overcome the challenges of not being able to show something tangible? Also, when providing different services based on the client, should you run different campaigns at the same time? Thanks.
Okay, so services are intangible, as you rightly say, as is radio. So when I used to sell radio, I was selling an idea. And essentially, if you're selling a service, you're selling an idea. The idea is how you make their life better, how you make their business run better, depending on what kind of a service you are. It really depends on who your client is. But actually being able to demonstrate how you can solve a problem, both external and internal. I believe that service selling is probably one of the most difficult things that you can do if you don't identify that emotional need that they have. How's the problem they're facing making them feel? By addressing that, you can really make a big difference to them and to yourself because you get more people to buy from you. In terms of the campaigns, how many you run, I would say make sure you identify who your ideal target market is and then just start everything moving towards that ideal target market. Other people will inquire, other people will come to you. It's then your decision whether you help them or not. When you qualify, whether they're right for you can make a big difference. Hope that answers your question.
In the room?
Yes.
Online, Cheryl, when writing a proposal and there is no response to the follow-up and feedback is generic, how can one learn to do better for the next one?
I think proposals, especially when you're sending them online, they're quite challenging because you lose control to a degree. So that's why I said in the presentation that when you've sent the proposal, make sure you call them the following day, just to make sure they've got it. You're not trying to sell to them, just make sure they've got it. And then you have the opportunity to say to them, look, have you had a chance to look at it yet? If not, don't worry, I totally understand. I'll give you a call in 3 days. Would morning or afternoon suit you better? What you're then doing is asking them for permission to contact you. But I understand it can be a challenge. I opened up the session by saying ghosting is a real problem. And it is, because people don't want to say no. Hopefully, the process that I've given you this morning will allow you the opportunity to go through that 4-step process so that step 4 is just a given. But you really have to build that trust and rapport with people to ensure that they're ready to buy from you. And then they're not going to be afraid of buying, because very often the fact they're not coming back to you after they've had a proposal is that they don't know how to say no, or they don't know how to proceed properly. Be interesting to know whether you put a what next in your proposal. What do you need to do next? Just reply to this email or call me or whatever. Reply to this email saying yes. Simple. Yes.
Tasha, I work for a luxury travel agency. What kind of problems are there to tackle regarding holidays?
Oh, that's an interesting one, because holidays today, funny enough, I had a conversation with somebody on Friday, and she is an independent travel agent. And one of the big issues that she comes across is that not only do you come across the on the beaches and people like that who offer lots of services at a much lower price, but you don't have the protection that you have when you're booking through on the beach and people like that. The other thing is BA are doing an awful lot of deals at the moment because they've got their holidays and their flights all rolled up into one. My advice would be, if you're a high-end travel agent, you really need to concentrate on what makes you different. And the lady I was talking to on Friday was telling me about how she really comes into her own when there's a problem. If flights are changed, if there is an issue when you're actually going to your destination. And I've experienced it firsthand, where I've been on a flight, it's been diverted because of a medical emergency. It was going to affect the chauffeur and the check-in time at my destination. And I rang her and said, look, this has happened. She was onto it, and total peace of mind. When people are going away on holiday, they're going away to relax. So think about that internal problem. They want to relax and they want to start that relaxation soon as they're in their holiday mode, even before they leave the house. And you don't want that being ruined. So what you can do with your high-end service is promise them that you're going to really be their eyes and ears and look after any problems that might occur in the process. Another one?
Anonymous, could you please go over social proof again in relation to reviews? Should we get our businesses on Google, Trustpilot, TripAdvisor for reviews?
Yes, absolutely. Anywhere that your ideal client goes for reviews, you should have a presence on there. And as a matter of course, just ask people to give you reviews. People you've dealt with who've been happy with you, you want them to review you. People that haven't been happy with you, I wouldn't ask them for a review personally. But you know, the fact is that people today are looking at your Google page, they're looking at Trustpilot, they're looking all kinds of platforms. TripAdvisor is one of them, and you just need to ensure that you've got a presence on there. One thing for you to demonstrate social proof through your presentation and your proposals and everything else, but the things that work the best for you are those that are independent and just sitting there in the ether and people have done voluntarily. So ensure that you get people to volunteer to give you a testimonial, because they do work. That's it, I think.
Sorry, Chantel,
Yeah.
Tools UK, after identifying your ideal business customer, do you have a method, a platform for finding the correct person to speak to in the company?
Very often that will be based on your existing customers, if you're already looking after customers like it. If there's a decision-making unit, think about who that decision-making unit is. It might be the chief exec, it might be the marketing director, it may be the HR director. They might be the 3 people involved. Think about the person with the most vested interest in buying your product or service and make it your point to try and contact them. And I would do that either through email, if you can. I know it's difficult to get email addresses these days, but LinkedIn is a really good way to do it. And LinkedIn messaging, if you can be really succinct with exactly the problem that you can solve, it's a great way for you to actually reach those people that are the decision makers and can start the process moving. Thanks, everyone. I hope you found that beneficial. If you need to reach out to me afterwards, I'm going to be around. I'm now going to do a session within the room here. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. Cheers. Okay, a couple more lines from myself, if I may. Kent and Medway Growth Hub has many financial and non-financial initiatives that are available to local SMEs. For people online, if you email kmgh@smartersociety.org, we can give you more details and we can refer you to them. I'd just like to say many thanks to Paul for that great presentation.
As I already mentioned,